I'm not going to give you the Thomas Cook story. You'll be delighted to hear. I'm not going to pitch you Thomas Cook products or holidays. But I do want to just give 10 quick sort of secrets or ideas around this whole thing around customer experience, omnichannel, and a great introduction there, the difference between multi-channel and omnichannel. It's something that we at Thomas Cook looked at and said, if you are fundamentally a multi-channel organization, I want you to have an image of the Parthenon in your head. It's very functional, very siloed, very strong, very well built, stands the test of time, but it doesn't delight the customer, right? And it's not scalable and it's not agile. And this omni-channel idea of having everything very much focused around the customer is not just semantics. It's not just trite. It's not just evolution. It is fundamental to the way the organization thinks and behaves. Why do digital companies, travel agents, online travel agents, travel companies, or any other digital company that you like, behave and act differently, get products to market quicker? Because they think and behave and are structured fundamentally differently from traditional companies, whatever we mean by traditional. So I've only got 20 minutes, and so this is going to be a canter through sort of 10 things that I've found over the last 10, 15 years. I've worked in Asia, MENA, USA, and Europe, working on digital transformation, marketing, digital marketing initiatives, and hopefully some of these will be helpful. Some of my examples are not from the travel industry, and I think that's important because I think we need to learn from outside, and I think if we constantly look within, it's like asking the turkey to vote for Christmas or Thanksgiving. Yeah? So, the first, digital customers are different. Fact. Okay? They behave different. They think differently, they behave differently, there are multiple, we've heard all of this all the time. So why are so many of us trying to make our non-digital journeys, our non-digital experiences fit? We heard this yesterday, take the desktop and try and make it work on mobile. No. Start, first of all, with your customers, understand that they are fundamentally different, and be prepared for change. And that change starts not in the marketing department, but it starts in the boardroom. I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So the first thing is, be prepared for change. If you're not, your competitors will outpace you. Right? And if you are the people that recognize this or have the facts or the analysis, then use that to tell the story internally to drive a case for change. You cannot afford, and you cannot, from a technology, from a marketing, and from a people perspective, you simply cannot afford to go just about layering everything back on the old way. Okay? Great example, Starbucks. Starbucks took a step back and said, we are in the business of selling coffee, but actually our customers come in to use our retail outlets for different reasons. Most of the time they come in to do their homework, or they come in to chat or use the free Wi-Fi, and they buy one coffee. Or when they've been there 3 hours, they feel they ought to buy another one. But there was a realization that actually what people come to do in Starbucks is socialize. And that socialization may not be one-to-one, it may be one-to-many, it might be online. But they want to be involved, and coffee is part of that experience. So fundamentally changing how they develop their stores, what they do, how they develop new products, crowdsourcing apps and ideas from their customers to delight their customers, has created a fundamental shift in how Starbucks thinks and behaves towards its customers. Starbucks realized that their customers behaved and thought differently, and they changed their business model around it. Second point, whether you realize it or not, your biggest barriers are internal. The things that stop you being successful is you, not the market, not your competition, right? And if you realize that, it's a kind of light bulb moment, yeah? It's not rocket science, right? So why do we blame everybody else, right? Our biggest challenges are internal. And if you know that, then invite the skeptics or the key leaders or whoever it might be to be part of the solution. Challenge them. Give them the facts, the figures that says your competitor's doing this and whatever, but make it something that you internalize. Because actually from a customer experience point of view, and these points become relevant as I go through the presentation, you'll see why this is so critical. If you don't get this right internally, you have not got a hope in hell of getting the customer experience right externally, because you simply cannot change the direction of the supertanker at the speed of a speedboat. And your competitors, you think, are behaving like speedboats. Actually, some of the startups might be being disruptive, but in most industries, the larger players are the ones that are going to stay and remain if they adapt, if they change, if they remain relevant. Otherwise, they won't. There'll be a Kodak or a Blockbuster. People in Germany may well know this gentleman. He was the head of Das Bild, one of the largest papers in Germany, a gentleman named Kai, and this is the pre-post picture of him. Pre, when he was a good corporate citizen running one of the largest papers in Europe. Post, when his CEO sent him on a silicon sabbatical for 6 months to San Francisco. This is how he looks now, all right? He's a hoodie. He has a beard, okay? He had 6 months disconnected from his organization to go and change and learn and understand and be the leader of change in his business. Axel Springer, the company he works for, has transformed itself internally and externally, has made disposals, has restructured, but realized that one of the most significant drivers of a seamless customer experience was to have the people inside the organization organized and behaving and understanding the needs of the customer and reflecting that. If those two things aren't in parallel, you haven't got a chance of getting that agility and that engagement and people making the right priorities. If you want more marketing budget, if you want a better or larger mobile or user experience team, you need to have people who understand why that's important. Most of those people ultimately making the decisions sit in the boardroom. You've got to take them with you, right? So, great case study for Axel Springer around cultural change, but realizing that actually to really drive pace of change, you need to take people outside their comfort zone. You need to immerse them in something fundamentally different and then bring them back as change agents. Your biggest ally, this is quite controversial because I suspect most of us don't feel this, but your biggest ally is your CTO, your technology department. You cannot be successful in digital marketing, and certainly not in omnichannel or end-to-end seamless customer experience, unless the marketing, the UX, the content, the product, and the technology teams are working in harmony. This has to be about collaboration, not about dictation. This has to be about working together. And if you get that right, you will see rapid and fundamental change. Great example, Sephora. So this is a brand that has really grown and ignited itself, and it basically sells cosmetics, and it has a very large high street presence. But what it's realized is that actually the data, the insight, the stuff that allows that seamless experience to happen, can I find what makeup will be suitable for me? Is it available in my store? Can I reserve in store? The things that customers want to do, if you imagine an iceberg, what's above the water is what the customer sees and thinks and feels nice, clean, easy. What's beneath is what's happening inside the organization. Relationship roughly of 1 to 7. 6/7 of what has to happen probably got a technology flavor to it. If you're not getting the technology right, you haven't got a hope in hell of getting the seamless end-to-end customer experience right. You have to start somewhere. One of the most regular questions I get asked at seminars and conferences, fantastic, particularly in Germany. My German colleagues will smile, where we're quite conservative, and we like, this is great, I understand it, thank you for the template, the roadmap, how do I implement it, where do I start? The most difficult thing is knowing where to start. And actually, the longer you deliberate about where do I start, the harder it gets, right? Just start. If you're going to fail, fail quickly. It's okay, right? It really is okay. Digital culture is about innovation. It's like the salesman who really wants to hear you say no because he knows that means he's closer to a yes. Yeah? So fail quickly, but think about where you're going to start. Well, the clue is you start with a customer. Customer journey mapping, all right? You're not involved in your product, your technology. You sit. We've heard it today from Disney. We've heard it from Facebook. We heard it from Turkish Airlines yesterday. You start with your customer. Do you know your broad segments of how they behave? In Thomas Cook, we have young independent travelers, we have families, we have couples, we have singles. They behave differently. Interestingly, nationalities, you'd think that Scandinavians are different from Germans, are different from English, are different from French. Fundamentally, they're not when they're booking holidays or wanting travel experiences. But actually what is different is the way they behave with devices, or their affluence group, or whether they're as a family or on their own. If you understand your customer journeys, you will drive and create your products to fit that. Right? Make what you can sell, not sell what you make. Yeah? So fundamentally, when you're thinking about customer journey, start with end-to-end and say, how would this run through? Oh my God, that means I've got to change my marketing organization or this product or technology. Be bold. You do have to do that if you want to succeed, because the companies that are succeeding and outpacing you are doing that. You won't be able to read this, but you're going to get the slides. There's 4 or 5 sort of bullet points for those of you that do want to know where to start and want some specific ideas. But I'll give you an example of Delta. There's nobody here from Delta, is there? Okay. Worst performing airline. All right. Financially, this is 3 years ago. Financially, worst performing airline. The lowest rating for cabin crew in terms of customer service. Worst on-time record departure. Right? Least integration between all the various different things. Going out of business. New team comes in and says, new management team comes in and says, we will start with the customer at the heart of everything that we do. The IT organization, which used to own the booking system, now had to work with marketing, customer service, and online everybody else, and they now have the booking experience team with joint accountabilities, who are jointly accountable for delivering the best possible booking experience. And they work that across their customer lifecycle. They fundamentally reviewed about what's the role of mobile and tablet and desktop. When do people use what? What do they need? We heard some of that from Turkish Airlines yesterday. 3 years later, in the influential Wall Street Journal's ranking of airlines, best airline, the highest profitability per segment, the best on departure record, and the highest level of conversions between booking and flight. 3 years. From out of business to top of the tree. Why? Customer experience journey mapping at the heart of an omnichannel strategy. Think beyond a single campaign. In marketing, we tend to be quite focused on, I have to do this, I've got this segmentation, I have to get this message out, it has to work. Yes, of course you do. At a granular level, your campaign needs to be well-researched, great content, properly measured, and then optimized. Of course you do. But if you think end-to-end, you will get a fundamental difference in results. Google is expensive. In Germany, it's even more expensive because we have new entrants who are basically going for market share. They're digital only, and they're just pushing the cost per message up. Right? Organic, branded traffic is about 6 cents compared to the €1 I have to pay for a keyword on comparatively. 94% cheaper. Right? If I can get a campaign that runs online, offline, in travel stores, on radio, on TV, if I think the whole journey end to end, the likelihood is that actually, yes, I'll get some good conversion on the campaign, but critically I get this uplift in terms of branded, organic credibility, which translates into lower cost per message, which translates into higher engagement, better loyalty, more effective marketing. So, create cross-functional teams. If you physically can't change your organizational structure, bring people together. Thomas Cook, we have what we call a war room. We literally come together and we have brown paper and things on the wall, and we sit and we work a campaign top to bottom and left to right. And we think, when's this going to work? Have we got everything in place? How's this going to run on TV? How's this going to run in the travel stops and so on? We have a customer life cycle. okay, which goes from an inspiration, dream, all the way through the sort of the search, plan, book, you know, at airport. We have an airline. We're lucky we have that included in our customer life cycle, right the way through to in destination and back, right? You'll have your own customer life cycle. But the idea is that you think always end-to-end. Not every campaign needs to run end-to-end, but you need to know where it stops and where it starts, what trade-offs you're making. Okay, bit provocative. I think we're out of date if we say mobile first. Sorry for those that said it yesterday. And I don't think it's social first. Those are fundamentally critically important to digital marketing and the world that we live in. But I think unless you think digital first, right, you are not going to be able to scale or react as quickly. If I'm going to be a little bit contentious, if you're thinking mobile and social first, you're putting digital paint over your analog problems. Right? You haven't got the right fundamental thinking, which is do it once and do it right. So I need a digital asset management or a content management system that will deliver perfectly one asset across multiple different devices, resolutions, channels, not 4 or 5 different ones optimized for whatever. You simply cannot scale. And most of us have pressures around cost. You will not be able to scale quickly enough because your market is being disrupted by a Google or a Facebook deciding that they're going to, I don't know, buy a travel company, right? Or it's being disrupted by an Airbnb, right? Or a hotel tonight or whatever. We are being constantly disrupted. And we have to be more agile. And one of the ways of being more agile is to get it right, to think, go back to first principles and think, what's the right processes and capabilities to scale this, irrespective of what happens in the future. Now, I don't think that wearables is going to be the big thing that everyone thinks it's going to be, at least not for the next year. It's going to take a while for it to grow up, right? But let's pretend that it was. Are you ready for it? Does your next campaign or your content, is it wearable compliant? Somebody's will be. And if yours isn't, if you haven't got that agility, you can't go omnichannel. And we mustn't think about omnichannel where it is today. We have to think about where it might be. Right? The unfortunate thing, we're trying to predict the future, right? And plan for it. Axel Springer, again, what was interesting with them is that they fundamentally changed their business structure. They organized themselves into 3 different sort of content-orientated teams, and then had brands and distribution channels put on top of that. If a media organization the same as Axel Springer, which is roughly the same size, if not bigger than the BBC, for those of you not familiar with it, all right, can change itself in 4 or 5 years, you can. Okay, this point was brilliantly made, so I'm not going to elaborate it too much, but the mistake is that people talk this, all right, but don't measure it. We are in a data-driven age. Every single marketing dollar that you spend should be optimized. You should know what your cost per message is. You should understand the relevance across all channels. If your analytics solution doesn't measure across all channels, cannot get the deep insight into mobile or tablet or desktop or travel store or online, you've got the wrong solution or you need to upgrade it. Right? It's tough. We need to think about analytics, but analytics has to become a core competency of an organization that is relevant to an omnichannel business. If you have not got enough people focused on analytics, if they only sit in the web team or they only sit in finance, you know, running Cognos or something, business intelligence, you need to go have a conversation with your board. Analytics is a hygiene factor of an omnichannel business that is going to stay relevant and be able to adapt. I'd be interested to hear later from Disney what their change has been, right? But typically the investment areas that people are making is in analytics. Data, big data, that horrid word big data, but you know, that is a hygiene factor of an effective, efficient digital organization. A good example is BNP Paribas. They fundamentally rethought and said, we want to have really high-tech, high-touch experiences in both branches and be relevant in different stores and understand our customers. How do we make our investment priorities? Analytics. Analytics that went end-to-end, that said, I can track this person here and there. And so in this particular arrondissement of Paris, I will have this type of branch, and in this particular part of London, I will have this branch. And in Egypt, I won't have any branches, I'll do this. The new Holy Trinity. Digital asset management, this idea of being able to do it once, have it properly curated, efficient, effective, then it can be distributed quickly. CRM, underpinning Omnichannel, okay, is this ability to know your customers at every single touch point, their behaviors, what they're doing, what they want, and to integrate that into your delivery channels. And you can't do that if you're not measuring. It has to be analytics driven, right? So does your IT roadmap, all right, and does your investment priorities reflect that? If it doesn't, you're in danger of being on the end of the analog S-curve and not on the start of the digital one. You're being in danger of being left behind. And I'm sure if we talk to IHG or Hotels.com or the others that have done some of this work and really focus on investments in mobile and whatever, you'll see that some of these are these critical components beneath the waterline. We're almost there. Burberry, for those of you that know Burberry story, interestingly that the head of Burberry now has been poached by Apple to transform their retail environment. She said, we are a digital company first, okay, and we have to understand that content needs to work across all channels. They have fashion shows with digital rain, okay? In other words, when it's broadcast, it looks like it's raining and it bounces off umbrellas, but actually the models aren't getting wet. They have those broadcasts. You can walk into a store, you can look at something in a mirror, and the mirror then has the new coat or dress you want to wear, and you can see yourself in it. You can book, you can do bespoke. You know, the whole thing's completely integrated, because at the heart is a digital asset management system that works across all channels. They understand their customers at a very, very sort of micro segment level, and they've driven it all through analytics. We're almost there. This stuff isn't easy. You know, you go to lots of conferences and the whole talk is about mobile this and omnichannel and lots of buzzwords and hype, right? It's tough. I've been doing this for far too long. I used to be 6'2" and thin. It's hard, okay? You need to be strong. You need to be resolute. You need to push back against the board that said this isn't a priority. It is. If they don't get it, change companies, right? Honestly, I mean, if they don't get it, move, right? Because there are companies in your sector that do, and they're the ones that are going to be successful. Be resolute. Be clear about what you're asking for, absolutely. But make sure that you use the latest research, all right? If it's a German company, my experience of living and working in Germany the last 10 months, everything is fact-based. Right? If we want to get an answer, I have to provide facts. Forget the emotion. If I go to America, I have to talk it up and talk in baseball analogies. And if I go to the UK, I have to be very careful and politically correct, but I have to use a bit of jazz hands and a bit of hype, right? So, but underneath it is the idea that, you know, I am a fact data-driven marketeer. I anchor my insight, my requests in facts and data. There's plenty of it out there. Organizers of this conference have got some great reports. Use that to influence your people. Omnichannel, okay, and this seamless experience is that you don't assume that you know your customers better than your customers know your customers. Right? I have lots of people in Thomas Cook, I've been here for 15, 20 years, and this is the right product, and this is what we do, and we know our customers. Right? I go and talk to a customer, and they have a fundamentally different view set. It's not scientific, but I don't think that we spend enough time with customers. We have an initiative in Thomas Cook where all senior leaders have to spend a quota of days per year in the front line talking with and working with customers, acting as a steward on an airline, working in a travel store, working as a rep. All right. I have introduced in Central Europe, we have customer sounding boards. That's me at the back, the little hobbit, thing. Right. And we get customers in regularly. I mean, regularly, every 3 months, to talk through issues and strategy and challenges and problems. Every single thing we do around UX is tested with customers before it goes into development. You have to bring this idea that the customer knows and understands what they want better than you do. Don't be arrogant, right? Do be collaborative. Do have dialogue. Do listen. Of course, sometimes you want to push the customers a bit. Of course, you want to develop some of their excitement around your ideas, or you want to be innovative. That's okay. But at the heart of an omni-channel strategy is the idea that customers are going to go end-to-end. You cannot predict what they're going to be on, what they're going to feel, how they're going to behave. So the more you understand that, the more you can plan for it. The more you plan for it, the more you can measure. The more you can measure, the more you can delight. The more you delight, the more customer loyalty you have, the higher your EBIT and your margins and your profit is. Right? The reason that we do this is it makes fantastic sense for the customer, and it makes fantastic sense for the shareholder. It's kind of a no-brainer. So back to the first point, it ain't difficult, but you do have to start somewhere, right? And a lot of it is actually inside your organization. Very happy, I've got to stop because I'm probably over time. Very happy to, people want to follow up with me afterwards and you need more detail on specific examples, delighted to do that. Thank you very much.